good day to die from watching that movie.
Yes.
This is the Film Rescue Show. We're the show with the biggest ego. We are fixing all of Hollywood's mistakes, one rewrite at a time. Today I'm joined in the studio with my host, Brandon.
Howdy.
You sound so sad, and I feel like that's my fault. I didn't mean to make you do this. It honestly, it wasn't my choice. It was Captain Midnight's choice, who's also on the podcast. Captain, how you doing, man?
I'm feeling really bad that I made everyone watch this movie again, because I was sitting there watching it yesterday going, wow, yeah, this is exactly what I remember it being.
I was one of the suckers that paid to see this in the theaters because of how much I love the Die Hard franchise.
Oh, me too. Opening night, I was there.
And did you, okay, so I remember not terribly hating it when I left the theater, but also that was like getting into film critic stuff and, film school and things like that. Do you recall, were you softer on it then than you were in the most recent listen?
I was pretty angry at it then. I think, because I had to, convince my friends to go see it with me,
Yeah.
And then walking out, everyone was like, that's what you wanted to go see? And I'm like, no, you don't get it. They've made good ones. I promise.
I promise this. Actually, Brandon was saying the same thing while we were watching. My roommate was in watching it with us, and he'd never seen any Die Hards before, so this was his exposure to this classic series.
Yeah, that's just it's just rough.
It's sad.
Unfortunate is the key word.
Yeah. When you picked this one out, I was happy. Because we've done a lot of superhero movies in the last few weeks, and so I like to keep it broken up. If I'm going to pitch something, it'll be something at least non-superhero related. The last one I did was The Nun. So when you said you wanted to do this one, I was very happy to get away from superheroes for a minute. And then by the end of this, I was like, this was just a superhero movie.
Yeah.
He should have died many, many times. Not in the first Die Hard way. He should have died of narrow escapes and stuff. But that truck at the beginning, he flips it 6 times over top of other vehicles,
And that just rolls out.
Yeah, not a scratch.
It's I just need a little bit of Tylenol and I'm good.
Yeah, I think if there was some goofy fan theory for these Die Hard movies, it's that at some point John McClane turned into a vampire and is invincible somehow, because it's just so crazy. Every one of them kind of ramps up how invincible he is, and this really just hits the peak of it.
By this point, though, if a vampire got a hold of him, they just sucked out most of his personality.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're unofficially known as the We Hate Bruce Willis podcast.
2010 and after. I need to pinpoint. I still need to pinpoint when exactly he just stopped trying.
Yeah.
Or trying that much.
Because we did, what was the one we did a couple weeks ago? Death Wish, yeah.
Oh, man, that was a bummer, too. That was...
Yeah. I think it's just sad because we know how good he can be when he's charismatically trying. Even those Red movies.
Still haven't seen those, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
He's at the beginning of the first one, I was like, oh, is Bruce Willis back? Is he trying? And then no, he wasn't.
No.
Especially in that second one, he could care less.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and I don't know if it's just an age thing or if it's an ego thing or if it I don't know what it is.
I think it's both with him because even with the Expendables films, he had his cameo in the first one where it makes sense that he's just there and gone.
Yeah.
And he's in 2 scenes in the second one. And the third one, Stallone was trying to get him to come back. He's like, okay, well, I'll do 3 days for $4 million. And
Jeez.
Stallone's like, ha, that's cute. We'll get Harrison Ford instead.
Right.
So, the film was definitely the worst of the trilogy, but Harrison Ford, in my opinion, was a step up.
Does he just owe taxes on a bunch of stuff? Does he just have a lot of estate that he has to keep money coming in?
Bruce Willis.
Yeah, Bruce Willis.
Probably. Because I feel like a lot of these actors, they kind of fall into that same hole.
Yeah.
Some you hear about and some you don't. Everyone knows that's the case with Nicolas Cage, and it was the case with Wesley Snipes before they actually got a hold of him. I do think that might be the case with Bruce Willis, might be the case with John Travolta. A lot of them kind of fall into that same pattern of a circular, hey, I got a new movie coming out to Walmart and Redbox every 2 months with the occasional theatrical film.
And
especially if it's like a franchise follow-up like Glass, like
Right.
Die Hard, or even Death Wish, which is a remake of a franchise or part of the franchise. So
Glass, I had a lot of hope for Bruce Willis in, because it's like, okay, his performance in Unbreakable is good. Like it's a quiet performance, but it's still a really good performance.
Absolutely.
And I thought, okay, he's back with the respecter he directs as opposed to he respects as opposed to some Redbox guy. Maybe he'll actually show up to this one. And I mean, that script didn't really have that much for him to do in the first place, but even what he did have to do, it just seemed like he didn't care. And that was the time where I was just like, okay, I think this is just it for Bruce Willis. I don't think he cares about any of this anymore.
He tried to hair more, I think, but not much.
Yeah, more than in this movie. I'll give him that.
Yes.
Oh yeah, this was like, and part of it too, I think, is like what was offered to him, because the script for this movie was not good.
Oh yeah,
like just getting off the ground was even difficult for this movie. So I'm not shocked that he didn't bring his A game to this beloved character.
Well, the sad irony with that is apparently this was the first time that a script was written from the ground up as a Die Hard movie, because even the original Die Hard was not meant to be Die Hard. And then the other 3 sequels after that were taken from something else and converted. This was the first time it was from the ground up, and it feels the least like a Die Hard movie.
Right.
What did I miss?
Yeah. Do you guys know what the original title of Die Hard 4's script was?
There's a couple.
I know. Incredibly embarrassing early 2000s name.
Oh no.
WW3.com for World War III.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
But even like when they did throw in Die Hard, at one point it's going to be called Die Hard 4.0 or something like that.
Yeah, I think it actually is still called Die Hard 4.0 in the UK and Europe.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Oh my god. Okay, so Captain, if you had to rank the Die Hard movies, I'm gonna assume this one's on the bottom for you.
Yeah, big time.
How would you? What's your stack of 5?
So, I mean, the easiest pick's the first. Obviously, it's just it's an untouchable classic. But the third, I would say, is almost underrated at this point.
Yes,
I think those are both directed by McTiernan, who I think is a really underrated action director in general.
Yeah.
And after that, I don't know. The second, I probably like a little bit more than the fourth, because of the last 15 minutes. But I think the second one is kind of a pretty, just a retread of the first one that's not quite as good. But it's like comfortable, and it's on TNT at 3 in the afternoon, and so you watch it.
Right.
It's your disposable but enjoyable Rennie Harlan film.
Yeah.
So.
And the fourth one is like, I was a big fan of it when I was, 13 or whenever it came out. It hasn't held up well. Like it looks good in comparison to this movie, but it's not a particularly great movie. And then this is leaps and bounds worse than that. Like that movie at least like has a pulse. This is
it tried. Like, even Bruce Willis tried in that movie. And I remember when, I think it was Len Wiseman who directed the fourth one, which kind of threw me off. It's like, oh, the Underworld guy is going to direct a Die Hard movie. Sure. And, yeah, it wasn't bad. And I think I completely agree with your ranking. I think everyone can agree that, first should be first, fifth should be fifth.
Yeah.
And then the middle 3 can kind of change from person to person. But, yeah, I would definitely say, first is first. With Vengeance would be second. 2 would be third. Live Free fourth, and the fourth one wasn't too bad. I mean, as we discussed earlier, make sure you're watching the unrated version for obvious reasons, because Die Hard should never be PG-13.
Agreed.
But I would still rather watch the PG-13 version of that than any version of Good Day to Die Hard again.
Oh, definitely.
So, it's kind of sad, really.
Oh my god. And okay, so this is not dump on Bruce Willis hour. I don't want to do that too much. It'll happen again, I'm sure, but I don't want to do that for 2 hours. And I do like to start off with the positives. I think it's amazing that any movie ever gets made, just because I know from the limited experience that I have in short films and being on sets that movies getting made is fantastic.
Yep.
Just even if they're bad, it's amazing that it happens at all. So, what were some things that if you were to pick out some things that you enjoyed in this one, if you're gonna recommend, hey, watch it for like this scene or for this performance or for this action beat, is there anything you did actually enjoy in the fifth one?
That's tough. Let's see. I guess I liked seeing Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character show up again. I was kind of hoping
Right.
she would have more to do.
Oh yeah.
Boy. I did like the part, kind of, even though it's pretty ridiculous, where he goes from being on top of the bridge to being on that truck to then falling on top of all those other cars and driving out of it. That whole chase sequence went on like 10 times too long and
Sure.
was shot in a really annoying way, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
that particular sequence in it was kind of entertaining.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, the Russia setting could have been interesting
Sure.
if they tried a little bit harder. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's, like, I picked this movie because I've like hated it for so long, so it's really
Yeah.
hard for me to come up with positives.
Sure. No, I totally get that.
Tumbleweeds and crickets.
I remember not enjoying Jai Courtney the first time through. I think I appreciated like 5% more on this.
That's all you can get out of him.
Yeah.
Jai Courtney, the eater of franchises.
Right.
I swear. It's like, he doesn't kill them, he just puts them into a coma.
Yeah.
Like Die Hard, we might still get a sixth one. Suicide Squad, we know that is coming back around. Terminator, we're slowly getting another one of those. But like, once he's involved, like, it can just put them on life support for a while. I mean, let's not forget, he was also in the Divergent franchise, and they just gave up on making any
yeah.
more of those.
They just
So, even though I think they kill him in the second movie, spoiler alert for those who care, but still, he was in the franchise, it counts.
yeah.
But yeah, if you have Jai Courtney in your franchise, there's going to be problems.
I think there was just like a couple of beats where it felt really a lot like he was trying to portray what if you were this like impossible action hero's son,
Yeah.
and how much like you could go from like idolizing your father to just hating him because you realize how much of an asshole he is all the time.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
like I kind of sided with Jai Courtney's character in this movie, as boring as he was, just because
Yeah.
John McClane is like just such a jerk in this.
Yeah. and that's kind of always been his character. I think there's a little more like New York charisma along with it with the first three.
Yeah.
Because that he works so well with Sam Jackson in Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
He does.
That really made his character shine as far as having someone to interact off of. Because that's how it worked in the first one too. You had the
Reginald Val Johnson.
right. He had someone else to like interact with to show off how like quippy and interesting he can be, and you know quippiness is like the quintessential action hero trait now, and it wasn't always.
Well, it's funny. A lot of people forget that before Die Hard, he was mainly known for doing comedy.
Right.
It's kind of like Chris Pratt. You know, he was known for Parks and Rec, and now he's Star-Lord.
Man,
So-
I really hope Chris Pratt doesn't turn into a Bruce Willis by the end of his career.
No, Chris Pratt's still trying, so hopefully, yeah, I'm hoping we don't get that as well. So
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other things that I liked. I too enjoyed the chase sequence at the beginning. The way it crescendos into them like slingshotting that truck into like an opposing lane of traffic through a cement thing. Like the action beats and like all these are all real stunts too. Like there was not a lot of CGI in that scene.
true. I mean, aside from like removing wires and such, I'm
Right.
sure, but
There was some aspects of it that were pretty fantastic. When the truck drops down on the taxi and flips it up into the ceiling of the bridge,
yeah.
I know how difficult the execution is on those kinds of things.
Okay.
So I think I appreciate it for knowing that there was probably like 300 people pulling off some amazing stunts that day, and I
They
don't
just
want
blew
them to,
all their budget, all their
Yeah.
action budget for that scene.
Yeah, really.
And you warned me beforehand, so after that, I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah,
because
because by the end, the helicopter bit, like,
you want to talk about CG?
Oh
yeah.
man, there's some rough CG in this movie, which I didn't
Yeah.
remember. Maybe it didn't strike me as that
You
bad in
blocked it
2013.
out.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe like because of how far CG's come since then, it's harder to watch it with the same eyes you had at the
It's like,
time.
when did this come out? 2003? 2013? What the hell?
Right. Yeah, and 2013, that's 6 years ago. I mean, we went from look at the CG to do some of the de-aging from 2013 versus Sam Jackson and Captain Marvel. Like,
Yeah,
we've come a long way in those last 6 years, kind of exponential.
that's true.
Oh man, yeah, I have not a lot of upsides to this.
Like, I was trying to think of some as well. I'm like, I got nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I know you mentioned Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and what's funny is before we did this, Seth was like, oh, hey, you know, we have an extended version by like 2 minutes. It's like, all right, couple things. One, that means that's 120 seconds of our lives we will not get back. Two, apparently she's not even in that cut of the movie. Which is
really?
like,
That's
why
weird.
why would you do that? Like, just, you're cutting more of the fibers from the previous Die Hard films at that point, and that's a decent connector to the last one. Why? It's like, oh, it wasn't bad enough. So it's like, I got nothing. So
You could honestly probably put another 5 minutes, or pull 5 minutes out of this movie if you took out some of the zooming, establishing shots of, I don't know, that some of the places were like, was that supposed to be recognizable? Because, like, I don't know what things look like in Russia. I know that big castle in Prague. That's like the one thing I know about.
that's where
Russia.
Tetris is from, right?
Right.
No, I really appreciated those establishing shots actually because it gave me some time to check my phone, you know,
Oh, yeah.
do all that good stuff.
True. Okay, so if you had to pinpoint like 2 or 3 things that really bugged you about this movie, what would they be?
Only 2 or 3.
Only 2 or 3. Yeah, like changing.
The first
Got-
and the biggest was that this movie's version of John McClane isn't who I think of as John McClane at all.
Nope.
John
It's
McClane
Bruce
was
Willis.
always like a kind of a gruff guy, you know. In the first movie, his wife is, you know, working at Nakatomi Plaza, and you can tell he's kind of uncomfortable with the like this big corporate world because he's just a, you know, regular New York cop, that kind of thing.
Right.
But the John McClane of this movie would like never get along with Reginald Vell Johnson's character Al.
Yeah.
Like he would like make fun of him. Like he's just a jerk to everyone, and the idea of like anything being shocking or scary is just something that he like straight up mocks. Like
Yeah.
he's a regular cop. He finds out that his son works for the CIA, and his first reaction is to belittle it and mock it, which is weird because he's
Yeah.
just a New York cop. Like this should be like way above his head level stuff. He's just like, I don't know. It's like they're really leaning into this grumpy old man stuff without really having any like redeeming value to him other than like, oh well, he at the end of the day he loves his son, and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
If you
Sure.
look at especially the first one and the third one and even the second one, he's constantly terrified. He's like
Yeah.
constantly like yelling at himself, trying to think of plans like as he's going. Here he never looks that worried about anything.
Right.
Like, and
Yeah.
the idea that he should be worried is stupid. Like, it's, yeah, I don't know. This isn't the John McClane of like panically yelling out the windows, tapping on the glass. He is like Superman here, but like an asshole Superman.
Right. Yeah, that's something that I bring up often, just about action heroes in general. The reason why your Die Hard 1, Bruce Willis, and Indiana Jones, and guys like that work is that they mess up, like, a lot. They screw up often, and they're terrified of the things that are happening around them, like any normal person would
Yeah.
be. Like, the whole trope of, like, coolly walking away from an explosion has to have been a post 80s action hero thing, because those like even your like most hardcore heroes used to run and die from explosions. Your
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzeneggers, like they were preserving their life, and now it's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna run through helicopter fire and jump out of a 7th-story window and hope that I'll land on something.
Yeah, like you mentioned that. Like I'm thinking about Commando with Schwarzenegger, where he's on the island in the finale, and he is running from explosions. He's setting them off, but he's still running from them.
Exactly.
It's not like I'm trying to look cool while doing it. It's like, no, I'm just trying to blow these bastards away and
Right.
get the hell out of here.
And-
Move on to the next part.
And the reason that's important is because, these characters are our vehicle within the movie, and when they're reacting in ways to things that I wouldn't, it pulls a disconnect. Like, people love Die Hard because they could imagine themselves being Bruce Willis in that movie. They could be John McClane. Whereas something like this, like, I didn't relate to him at all. It was just like, oh, you're just a stoic jackass walking through Russia doing your own thing, and I don't relate, dude. You're not for me.
And that's the thing. I feel like even with the fourth film, while it's definitely far better than this one, I feel like it was already in the fourth one we were starting to lose that everyman. I mean, yeah, like even in the third one, it's still like kind of like over the top, but like you said, he had like very like realistic reactions to everything going on. Like, oh my god! But in the fourth one, he's taken on the side of like a fighter jet.
Yeah,
and I'm like, come on now. But thankfully that was like relegated to like one, maybe two scenes in the fourth one, while that felt like every action scene in this one that he was just brushing it off.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know.
And also, the fourth one had, no matter what you think of him as an actor, Justin Long's reactions were very humanizing to that movie because he was reacting like a normal person would.
Yeah.
So even if you had Bruce on just cruising through collecting a paycheck mode, Justin Long was there to be like, oh, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And that was something that this movie was really lacking because Jai Courtney at every opportunity was trying to be as like stoic and badass and boring as Bruce Willis was.
Right.
That's actually a good call. I didn't even think about how like it doesn't have the everyman partner either like the other four did.
No.
So, and I think that was probably the biggest detriment, and no one realized that.
Right.
So.
Yeah, Justin Long like freaking out when he shoots a helicopter with a car. That
ran
just,
out of bullets.
That was like such a self-aware moment, such a John McClane line.
Yeah.
It totally works in that context. And then in this movie, there was no one to go just, I guess, react to anything at all. Even though you couldn't react to half the stuff because how would you react to? You just jumped out of a window without knowing if anything was there. Like you literally committed suicide for a second there. Just for a second, but
wrong.
You did.
See, if there's one good thing I can get from this movie, it actually makes me want to watch the fourth one again.
Yeah.
Like, I had nothing against the fourth one. I just didn't feel that inclined to watch it again. Like, maybe someday. But yeah, now I kind of want to watch the fourth one again after watching this one.
Fourth one is very watchable. Like, Timothy Olyphant is actually trying as the villain a little bit.
Yeah, it's got a decent villain. That's something else this film was lacking.
The French parkour guy, when they get into the coolant
I guess
vents,
Cyril Raffaelli? I probably butchered his name.
Yeah, that John McClane's reactions to him, like as a just thing that exists, was hilarious. He was like, he's a freaking monkey. It's just diving and dodging and dipping and ducking and dodging.
We're getting the dodgeball references 2 days in a row.
Sorry, I just love that movie. I agree. Where is John McClane? Because what we got was the tethered version of John McClane.
The great value John McClane.
Right.
From Walmart.
Knocking John McClane.
It's such a tragedy, I think, because like you said earlier, this is the first one written as a Die Hard movie originally, right? Oh, yeah. And you have a Bruce Willis that's really getting up there in age, and one of John McClane's, like, the most likable thing about him, really, especially in those first two movies, is that he's like such an underdog, right?
Yeah.
So now that he's old, he should be like the ultimate underdog. It should be like, man, no one takes him seriously to be able to do this stuff anymore. Because, I mean, look at him. He looks like a 61-year-old man.
Right.
And so him, like, still having to do that kind of Die Hard stuff, but now it's harder for him, should have been, like, something that this movie could have keyed into and made really, like, entertaining, but it had no interest in doing that at all.
I think it would have been really cool if they could have been setting up set pieces where an action needs to be taken that has happened in previous movies, but he's now, like, too old to do it, so he's trying to talk his son into doing it. and the son's approaching this like brand new, right? It's like, oh, I can't just jump out of a window with a fire hose and pray that I survive. And then John McClane could say something like, well, I did it. You know what I mean? Like, just kind of like point out how crazy he had been in the past, and then it allows you to watch the son come into the John McClane role, so that by the end it's like, oh, he did all the same stuff as his dad by the end of this, and then he had his dad to coach him through it as well. That builds their relationship. I'm trying to think. There's a couple other movies. Oh, Lethal Weapon does that really, really well, right? Where you have Mel Gibson is doing something crazy that Danny Glover can't or won't do.
True.
But that adds to their relationship with each other of like, oh, you're just totally crazy, or oh, you're just an old man, but I can rely on you to like help me through stuff. I think that kind of relationship could have worked beautifully in this kind of movie.
It's true.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, you know, the third one actually started out as a Lethal Weapon script, if I remember correctly.
That sounds right.
So,
it was going to be like Simon Says or something like that.
Yeah. And not the Dennis Rodman movie.
Right.
Sweet Jesus, no.
Man, okay, so there was one scene that really frustrated me beyond anything else in this movie. When they get double-crossed or attacked or ambushed or whatever you want to call it in the hotel where they were getting the key. Because that scene went out of its way to reference previous Die Hard movies, like as many of them spitfire as they possibly can, and it felt like the only time the movie really cared about the previous Die Hard movies beyond remembering that his son's name was Jack in the first one, I guess.
Oh,
yes. Because what happens, the sequence of events is they redo the John McClane's suspicious of an innocent person from the first one, where he was suspicious of Hans Gruber. They do that with the like lighthearted kind of like chit-chatty dialogue where he's figuring out that, you know, she's lying because she said she came across this highway that he had heard early in the movie was always congested.
Yeah.
And then from there, they do the beat where John McClane laughs with the villain. That happens in a couple of them where he has a scene where, like, you know, dire situation, he starts chuckling, and that makes the villain laugh. They do that one. And then right after that beat, they get into the shootout, and then he shoots the glass out of the ceiling as a reference to when he had to run on glass in the first one. And it was just like boom, 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 all within 3 minutes of each other. And I was like, wow, you went out of your way to remind me that this is a Die Hard movie, and it's making me really mad that this isn't a real Die Hard movie.
Also, like, the laughing thing, one, it's a really, like, cliche trope at this point. Like, even Community's kind of Die Hard paintball episode references that moment in the first one. But why it works in the first one is that it's so cathartic, because these two guys have been trying to kill each other for, you know, like, the entire night now, and they've both been through all of this, like, crazy, ridiculous stuff.
Right.
That it's just a cathartic moment of them, like, recognizing how ridiculous this situation is. Whereas in this, you've just met this bad guy. He's trying really hard to make an impression with that whole tap dancing thing, but he's not a character yet, and they just met him, so the laughing just seems to come out of nowhere and just exists to reference the first one.
Right. Yeah, and like, of the two villains of the movie, that guy was trying. You know what I mean? Like, he was trying to be recognizable and memorable, and then, you know, just gets murked by the end of it when Russian Mel Gibson, as I was calling him while we were watching this, exposes that he was the bad guy the whole time. Surprise, surprise. Didn't for a second shock me in the theater. I remember that, and then I had totally forgotten about it when we went to rewatch it.
I was just more confused and angry than shocked. I'm like, okay.
It's like, so why didn't you jump out of the car and go with those guys at the beginning when you were escaping with Jai Courtney? Wouldn't that have still worked for your plan, I guess? I have concerns.
This movie causes those.
Yeah. I would like to rewrite this movie. I'm glad you brought it up, Captain Midnight. I am glad you did, because I think we could still have good Die Hard movies, but there's a secret sauce that you can find sprinkled throughout the other four that are the recipe for a good Die Hard movie. So, what did you pitch? What do you have for us?
So, I wanted this movie to be about Bruce Willis handing the reins off to Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character.
Okay.
One, because we know her from a previous film. It's not Jai Courtney. The problem with Jai Courtney is that he strikes too much of a... Like, he seems like too traditional of an action hero, which you got to remember, like you were saying earlier, when the first Die Hard movie was made, people didn't think of Bruce Willis as an action hero.
Right.
And that was kind of one of the unique things about it, especially in that era of, like, you know, Sylvester Stallone on all the steroids in the world and Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was kind of a unique action star in that moment. And I think if you look at Mary Elizabeth Winstead's performance in that second Cloverfield movie, that actually has almost more of a John McClane everyman feel to it than Jai Courtney's performance here.
Even she's down to her sneaking around in air vents.
Exactly. That's a
cool idea.
That's why she got cast in 10 Cloverfield Lane, because she was in Live Free or Die Hard.
Oh, really?
No, I'm joking.
Oh.
I'm just saying that, like, that's the new theory now.
I mean, I'm not opposed. No, this is not at all where
the
I thought it was going to go.
Cloverfield sequels.
I'm interested, especially if, like, so is your pitch, like, from the get-go, trailers in theaters, we know that she's going to be a main character, or would it be presented as, like, oh, it's another Die Hard movie, but, like, it's kind of a stealth reveal that he's passing the reins?
Yeah, I would go with the stealth thing, because one, you do still need to give, assuming this is Bruce Willis's final Die Hard movie, which in the real world it's probably not. I hear they're making another thing. But assuming that's what we were writing this as, it still needs to be first and foremost like a love letter to that character and a send-off to that character, which is why it should absolutely not be set in Russia. The globetrotting, I don't need it in my Die Hard movies. All of this exposition at the beginning of, like, Chernobyl, cover-ups, all that kind of stuff, I have zero interest in putting that in a Die Hard movie. That's, like, very, Jason Bourne kind of wannabe, like every movie was around this time, Salt type of thing.
Ooh.
That just has...
Salt is a movie I have not thought about in a long time. Holy crap.
Yeah, there's a lot of these kinds of movies around that time because, Bond was just, like, killing it at that time. And then also the Jason Bourne movies were so huge.
Yeah.
There were so many... Like, do you remember Green Zone? The Matt Damon movie?
Forgot about that.
I do, because it looked like a Bourne movie.
Exactly.
Was that a Greengrass movie?
I think it was Greengrass.
There we go.
I think it was just them like, we want to do something, but it can't be Bourne.
But yeah, like, I have no interest in kind of putting John McClane in a Mission Impossible Bourne type of plot. Just that is not appealing to me.
Nope.
So all that stuff needs to go. I don't know if I would go so far as to, like, set it in, because the really obvious thing would be to, like, almost repeat the first one and reference, like, Nakatomi Plaza in some way.
Sure.
That's probably too obvious. I think not a building, but, and this is where my idea could maybe be a little goofy, but I don't know, I think it would be fun. Instead of, like, a building, because if you think about what the Nakatomi Plaza was, that was, like, the picture of success in the 80s, right?
Right.
Setting it on, like, a tech campus.
Okay.
Like a Apple or Amazon-esque, big, kind of hipstery, lots of technology type of campus that they kind of... is very distinct from kind of the office buildings of the 80s.
Yeah. You could
sense.
set it like in, like, Dallas or someplace that's, like, one of those big growing tech industry areas.
Yeah, something a little different from, Los Angeles, New York, and DC from the other ones.
Okay. I'm on board with this so far. This is a good idea.
Yeah.
So it's like a skyscraper on its side essentially. You know, you could even lay it out in a way where, you know, if his goal is to get from one side of a campus to another, you could very visually kind of like give the audience a good geography of the layout and how things work early on. If he's like there visiting her, or you know, maybe even do like a role reversal and have them like them doing like police training stuff, like online or, you know, electronic VR police training stuff, and then bring in like the grizzled old guy who knows how to do this kind of stuff in real life. I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas. I'm interested to hear what you have from here.
Yeah, I think it's really... I think it's a good idea, one, because if you remember, his daughter got together with Justin Long's character at the end of the fourth one.
Right.
Now, Justin Long's character was a tech guy.
Okay.
So there is a... Like, if they stayed together, there's a reason why they could be in that situation.
Sure.
And then on top of that, it allows you to get away with a lot of the grumpy old man Bruce Willis things in a way that doesn't seem as ridiculous as like, oh, you're a spy. You know, there's a lot of stuff that you could, you know, like the show Silicon Valley does, kind of, you know, mock about kind of tech culture that would fit with the John McClane character without him kind of going overboard into just like cranky Clint Eastwood territory.
Right. Did you see that movie that the Workaholics guys did, Game Over, which was in and of itself a Die Hard parody almost?
I didn't. I remember I saw the trailer and then I completely forgot it existed. Was it any good?
Okay, it's great if you love Workaholics like me. I could understand somebody watching it and being like, oh, this is like goofy as hell. But it did have a couple cool ideas that then weirdly that The Rock skyscraper movie ripped off.
Oh, yeah.
They came out like there was a lot of similarities between the two as I was watching Skyscraper, going like, oh, you both are just like, it's like a knockoff of a knockoff Die Hard by the time you get to Skyscraper. But it had that like that tech infusion, and how it shows how incompatible like 80s action stuff is with like tech heists. It actually takes its time to like highlight how out of their element someone like a John McClane would be in like a more tech heist kind of setting, which Live Free or Die Hard did as well. Yeah. But I think didn't highlight I guess some of the advantages that you could have in like a more tech based action hero or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, that was the whole point of the fourth one, was like the whole analog versus digital in a metaphorical sense.
Right.
You know, obviously with Bruce Willis being analog and Justin Long and Timothy Olyphant being digital.
Right.
And, you know, like the old and the new.
Yeah.
So,
I think Game Night essentially came down to like, it doesn't matter like how high tech you are, I can just start breaking shit and eventually your shit's going to stop working.
Not wrong.
Also, I would have liked to see it like in this pitch.
Sure.
You introduce it like it's going to be kind of a Bruce Willis, Justin Long team up again, and then you kill him off very early in the movie and bring the daughter to the forefront.
Okay. I mean, I'm not opposed to that idea either. I don't hate Justin Long, but his death could actually, depending on how you play it, how their relationship looks in a follow-up, that could actually be almost touching.
Yeah, because I think we really got everything that we could get out of that relationship in the fourth movie, that there's no need to repeat it for an entire other movie. Yeah. But also it is a character that both John McClane and his daughter like really know and care about at this point, so his death would have a lot of impact for them.
Right.
And yeah, I just think it would add, like, this movie as it exists now feels completely weightless. Like, there is nothing that is emotionally affecting about this movie at all.
Oh no.
Nope.
It doesn't feel at any point that the main character is being anything but inconvenienced by any of this.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that would add some really dramatic stakes to the movie that this was just desperately lacking.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if like and this would be the second time that Justin Long had been in the damsel position, but you could do something along the lines of like he gets taken the way that Holly Gennaro was taken in the first one, but then your turnaround could be like the stakes are higher because he gets killed and Holly didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and especially if that relationship between the daughter and him is still intact, that could really, like, you know, add something to the movie that this didn't have.
Yeah,
Well, it's almost like Holly's boss in the first one, who gets his brains blown out.
Yeah.
And more so in that case.
And then he
like,
gets shot in the head.
You're just gonna have to...
cocaine joke.
Jesus. 80s.
And if we're just straight up, you know, doing riffs on the first one, I would love to see the I guess it would have been 2013, the 2013 version of Ellis from the first movie.
Yeah.
I love that character so much.
Speaking of cocaine.
Oh, because like easily
Booby.
you could just grab like any SNL alum right now, and they could just be like a perfect millennial Ellis.
You're not wrong.
Yeah,
Down to the
big time.
beard and everything. The beards have come back since then. That's wild. Okay, I like. Okay, so when you do a riff on the original, you play around with parody territory, which, you know, is fine because like a parody obviously like enjoys the genre and the thing that it's poking a little bit of fun at. I guess, like, what percentage of self-awareness and parody would you want to see in this kind of Die Hard? Because like there was none of that in Good Day to Die Hard.
No.
I was like genuinely shocked that like it really didn't want to make fun of itself at all.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, you know, it's a tough line to walk with what, you know, the fifth Die Hard movie, because the second Die Hard movie has a scene where he says literally, how can the same thing happen to the same guy you know, so many times.
Right.
So if you're doing it again, the big negative that comes down to that is, yeah, it's literally like it is verging on parody how many times this has happened to him specifically.
Right.
So I think it would be funny if, you know, there's a line in the third Indiana Jones movie where, you know, his dad's like, you know, like, I can't believe that happened. And Indiana Jones like, well, it happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
And just kind of moves on to kind of go with like his daughter maybe commenting on like, you know, they've both lived through the events of the past movie, so someone would need to bring it up. But I think it needs to be brought up and then put down immediately.
Sure.
Not like every single, oh, they're shooting out the glass. You don't want to keep repeating the same exact plot points at all, or even referencing those plot points, but I think it should be acknowledged very early on and then like put away.
You know, it's interesting you bring up Last Crusade, because that's another great example of like your lead getting to kind of remain the same character, but you get to see more of what they're like by bouncing a very different character off of them. Sean Connery obviously is like, we didn't know what to expect of Indiana Jones's father, and then to find out that he is like Indiana Jones is an overcorrection in personality from his own father, made that relationship really fun and made that movie really fun. And it was like, yeah, you're right, it was just kind of self-referential. At that one point it kind of like hung a little lampshade on it and then just continued on. It was like, no, well, this is still, you know, Indiana Jones. We're gonna keep having Indiana Jones fun, but with new set pieces and new situations. And that's a great, you know, analogous thing with Die Hard and Die Hard 3. It's kind of like the same beat. And when you get to 5, like, I guess what would your beat be off of Vengeance, I guess? Is there a way to, like...
There's a third Gruber.
Yeah, yeah, without getting into that territory.
Hans, Simon, and Franz.
Right. Or like it's their daughter or something.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
You know, you don't want to go like full parody with it.
Revenge is circular.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of like what are you trying to say? Or okay, let me rephrase. I like the idea that the movie is still trying to have a good time as a good straightforward action movie and not be like a riff on itself.
Right.
Well, like how would you make the story feel genuine, I guess?
I think that you have to have the characters like buy in emotionally, and that's what the fourth one to an extent, and especially this one, it just like we've been talking about, nothing really affected them. So even if you know, this version of the movie did have similar riffs to the first one, if the characters took it seriously and there wasn't like constant winking, I think that it would establish those stakes just so much better. And on top of that, I think it would be fun if this new villain, whoever they were, one way that John McClane could have an advantage is, like, let's say this new villain was kind of using everyone's computer history and social media presence against them.
Okay.
And everyone, you know, has those problems. Everyone has the whatever skeletons in their closet, you know, in the corporate world of fake Apple or whatever. Sure. Everyone is planning on stabbing each other in the back. Everyone has weird stuff in their browser history, whatever it is, except John McClane, who literally has no digital footprint at all. So the villain doesn't know who this guy is or what to make of him.
Okay. I like that a lot.
Yeah,
okay.
I think that would be a fun thing to play with, and would give our, like, yeah, like, John McClane is still cool even though he's an old man, and we're going to acknowledge that he's an old man.
Yeah. My dad would be very safe.
Yeah, okay. I like that. That's a good jumping off point to get into plot. Let's take a real quick break. Captain, would you like to tell the good people of the world where they can find your content?
Sure, yeah. I'm on YouTube just at Captain Midnight, one word. I tend to talk about a lot of superhero movies, especially Spider-Man. It's kind of been my guy.
Oh yeah.
But I'm branching out more and more, doing a lot of different video essays. So if you enjoy video essays and you have any interest in what, you know, old 60s comic books, how they reflect on the MCU, I would definitely check those out. And you can find me on Twitter at MidnightCap.
Oh my god. Fantastic. It's about... Oh shit, he stopped talking finally? It's about fucking time. Hi everyone. Welcome to fucking Michael's Film Die Hard. Yeah. I was told I can't yell anymore because you're gonna saturate the audio. He just spent 2 hours a few weeks ago talking about fucking The Nun. Fuck you, Seth. I was like, what the fuck's my segment? And he's like, oh, well, we didn't take a break. You shouldn't have fucking spent 2 hours talking about The Nun. So, you know, here's a film rescue for you. We need to rescue that fucking podcast from Seth, spending 2 hours listening to himself masturbate into a goddamn camera while he tries to fix a shitty movie. Spoiler alert, can't fix garbage sometimes, asshole. Anyway, Die Hard. So, Die Hard 1, 2, and 3, which is Die Hard with a Vengeance. Fucking bomb-ass movies. Fucking John McClane, just fucking... Oh, yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Especially Die Hard 1. Die Hard 1 is the first movie that we get to see Bruce Willis at his best. And because of that movie, we got great films like Fifth Element. Fuck yes. Great film. I love the pacing. Alan Rickman is a badass boss. Rest in peace, buddy. Miss you, Snape. Just great. Just great film all around with good pacing. You know, it's a quintessential action movie from the 80s. It still is to this day. It's a 9 out of 10. Fuck all other movies. Die Hard 2 is a little stupid at times. Kind of dumb. How the fuck you taking over an airport like that? So the concept is not as great. I give it like a 6. But again, still badass, still good. Die with a Vengeance. Fucking Samuel L. Jackson with their racing all over the city. That was kind of cool. Honestly, kept you on the edge of your seat a little bit. It's an 8. I'd say Die Hard 2 is the worst of those 3. I wanted to get through those quickly because we all know they're good. Live Free or Die Hard. Oh my god. Okay, I understand modern cinema wanting to make movies PG-13 because PG-13 movies have a higher chance of making more profit because you can cater to a bigger audience. But it's fucking Die Hard, you son of a bitch. Fucking son of a bitch! Fuck you! I oversaturated the audio. Fuck you, Seth. Anyway, Look for Die Hard should have been good. Conceptually, it had some good ideas, but the pacing was awkward. Timothy Olyphant was a good villain. Justin Long is completely misused. Kevin Smith was kind of funny, but the PG-13 aspect really cut into the intensity of what was going on, and it just kind of abused the material that it had. Fire Sale, it just wasn't great, and it's like a 4 out of 10. And then these assholes are going to try and rescue the fucking fifth one. I have an idea for rescuing the fifth one. Let's not set it in fucking Russia and be completely fucking racist. Let's not make the pacing go from 0 to 100 to 0, staying at 0, 100 to 0. There's so many pacing problems with that thing. Just start it escalating. Have Amita's son there. Just have it escalate a little bit further. Have set in the betrayal a little bit quicker, and then ride it out a little bit longer, and you would have had a better movie. Anyway, this has been Michael's film Die Hard. Go fuck yourself, Seth, you son of a bitch.
Okay, perfect. So far, we've established kind of our themes and tones that we want. I was really enjoying your idea for a tech-based villain. I wanted to. I as you were saying it, I was trying to imagine like visually what the movie would look like. And it would be really, really interesting if, because it sounds like you want to keep things basically contained to like this tech campus, right?
Right.
I want to bounce this off of you to see how this sounds. Did you see the James Gunn's Belko experiment from a couple years back?
I did. Yeah, I saw that in theaters actually.
Did you enjoy that movie?
I would say I enjoyed it. It wasn't, like high art or anything, but solid, for what it was, I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Solid C plus B minus, yeah. What if it was like, I don't want to go like full, like almost sci-fi the way that was, but what if it was something like, somebody takes over this campus, in some kind of like maybe deranged social experiment to pit all of these like backstabby tech people against each other, so it's kind of and you could also have like they could have their own small army of like I'm trying to think of like essentially what if the Kekistan internet Pepe white nationalist kind of guys, not saying Pepe's white nationalist, I will make that distinction right now, but what like if it was that kind of like that kind of personality as your villain, and then you set like John McClane and his daughter in this like weird almost dystopian breakdown of society in this like tech campus as the backdrop to your movie, because like Die Hard 1 is a heist movie, and then Die Hard with a Vengeance is also technically a heist movie, but the trappings of it are way more like David Fincher serial bomber kind of thing. So like John McClane can obviously work in multiple different action movie settings. So what if you did something along the lines of like a Belko experiment with John McClane?
Oh yeah, that could be. I think that could be really good. One thing that I was like kind of thinking about too is if in the first movie, how it takes a while for the police or anyone outside to realize that anything's going wrong inside the building, because they hired a fake security guard, all that kind of stuff. I was thinking it would be cool if they took that to 11 by kind of, how tech companies are just like kind of like have this obnoxiously nice front all the time.
Oh, yeah.
How it's always like, connectiveness, and we're all pursuing synergy, and like a lot of like polite buzzwords just constantly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think it would be fun if, like, the reason why they couldn't get any help from outside is because, like, whoever has taken over is running all of that stuff as usual and basically, you know, killing them with kindness. Like, it's hard to even know that something is going wrong because they're not quite doing it with just, like, guys with guns like Carl. If they were setting people up against each other,
Yeah.
like what you were saying with the Belko experiment, they were using what they know about each individual person in the building to, you know, kind of set up an elaborate, you know, backstabbing and violent situation that they don't have to, like, shove people to the ground or, like, hold them against the wall or something like that.
Right.
It's very, you know, it's the ghosts of all these people's past coming back to haunt them.
Yeah, it's like it's literally taking your social media persona hostage instead of you as a person.
That's very modern,
Right.
very modern concept.
Oh yeah, I mean, okay, I'm digging on this now. And then yeah, your point about John McClane you couldn't take him hostage because what are you gonna do? Like, he has already ruined his career twice according to the movies.
Yeah.
You know, like you can't hurt him, you can't touch him
I
unless.
mean, hell, was a fourth one where they temporarily made it look like they wiped out his 401k. And...
Yeah.
It was a dick move from the villain.
And a thing that I think would add to that a ton is if when John McClane meets up with Justin Long and you know, Elizabeth Mary Winstead's character,
Lucy.
he was the
Nice.
Lucy, thank you.
Here's
He was the one
Lucy.
that was actually publicly shamed already. Like, maybe Holly Gennaro wrote, like, a op-ed called, like, what it was really like being married to the Nakatomi Plaza hero or
Ooh.
something.
That's
So-
great.
He goes into the movie being the one where everyone's like, oh man, I read that, that's too bad, you know. But, you know, he's, over the course of the movie, he's the one that has the least to lose,
Right.
because all of his, you know, his dirty laundry is already out there.
Yeah. No. Yeah. That's a great point. Okay. So, I really want to establish Lucy's arc in the movie and our villain. I think a strong villain pitch is really like what can make or break a movie. You could have a pretty terrible plot, and if your villain's good, people are going to watch it.
True.
And then, yeah, a good arc for Lucy Gennaro / McClane. That I think is what will be a good driving force. Like, why would it be important for her to become the hero in this situation? Like, you know, would you want to be a little, I don't want to say fourth wall breaky, but like, you know, her being the kid of the Nakatomi Plaza guy who was, you know, online trashed by his wife. You know, what I guess what elements are you seeing as part of Lucy's arc in becoming the next action hero?
Well, you have to remember at the end of the last one, she did find, like, a measure of respect for her dad.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So if we're going in already having that established, I think kind of what you were suggesting for Jai Courtney's character of, like, what is it like just being a footnote, like, kid to a very famous person?
Okay.
Could, like, really be a good starting out point, along with the fact that, like, when you start the movie, you have Bruce Willis, who's, you know, the action guy, but he's a little too old and he can't do what we're expecting him to do going into the movie.
Right.
He can't quite, you know, jump out of a window, you know, with just a hose tied around him, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
That's kind of in the past. And then you also have Justin Long, who at the beginning of the movie is maybe helping them out with the tech side of things, figuring out what the villain is doing, but then he gets offed quickly. So then it's kind of, with John McClane's guidance, kind of like all on her to kind of rise to the occasion of something that she's never really had to do before.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen the movie Blue Ruin.
Oh,
there's
yeah.
probably kind of like, you know, John McClane at least had police training.
Sure.
I think it would be fun if in this, kind of similar to that, it's just like she has John McClane there to maybe like help her out with a few things, but mostly she's really making it up as she goes along, you know?
Yeah.
and I think she is like such a charismatic performer that I think she could make us laugh too. I don't know. There was just be so much more there than there was with Jai Courtney.
Right. Oh
Yeah.
my God. Yeah, for sure.
Very much so.
I love that you brought up Blue Ruin too. Because that director's entire filmography is like one of the things I like to reference the most whenever I'm doing short films and stuff, because he has kind of exemplified why you don't have to have World War III be the result of, you know, your heroes failing every time. Like giving your heroes relatable, small scale stakes still can be just as like edge of your seat gripping as anything else. And Blue Ruin, like basically that whole movie is just the main hero being a normal guy set in an action movie, and he's got no idea what he's doing. Like
Right.
he doesn't understand guns. He injures himself at the end of the movie, right? Am I misremembering that?
Yeah, I think he almost kills himself on accident.
Yeah. So the whole thing's just like, you know, as you watch an action movie and, you know, you watch Bruce Willis in the first one, you're going like, oh yeah, I think I could do that if I had to. And then Blue Ruin's whole thing was like, sure, you might think you could, but guess what, dude?
But can you?
You're probably gonna die. And I love that. And that made the stakes like it was literally just like one guy against a like small family.
Oh wow.
That was the entire stakes. But like, if you've ever been in a real fist fight, taking on more than one person is really, really difficult.
Jesus.
That's why Die Hard basically breaks down to him like separating off each person one by one to take them out, because like fighting one person's hard, let alone fighting a group of them. And then in this movie, you got like John McClane gunning down Spec Ops as they run into the spy office. Just like he doesn't even duck for cover. He just like opens fire standing there, and they all just walk into it. Ugh. That's so. There's no stakes. I'm not invested. I'm not excited. I'm just like, cool. He's on God mode now. Awesome.
The movie's all chicken.
Yeah,
There's no stakes.
Yeah, definitely. Bruce is not bending down to duck for less than 4 minutes.
So you're not wrong. He couldn't even be bothered to do his own dubbing for some of the stuff. We were figuring out that it was like almost definitely a Bruce Willis impersonator doing all of the cutaway stuff, especially during like the car chases, things like that.
Yeah, which is so weird because I don't know if you've ever seen Kevin Smith had a big long I don't know talking on stage about Bruce Willis. And you know, he had a initially positive experience with Bruce Willis because he's in the fourth Die Hard movie.
Yeah.
And talking about how Bruce Willis would pull Lynn Wiseman aside and say things like, oh, like John McClane wouldn't do this, stuff like that. And he told Kevin Smith, like, you know, everyone around here is new. Like, I'm the only one who like, you know, I have to defend John McClane because, you know, I'm the only one who really, like, knows who he is. Where did that Bruce Willis go in this movie?
Yeah.
Because, yeah, either
That's downloadable content for an extra $10 million.
Right.
Yeah.
The real Bruce Willis is blocked behind a paywall.
Just shove a USB up his ass.
Bruce Willis works for EA. We just figured it out here on this podcast. Okay. So, the Lucy arc. I guess what character trait? If you're looking at your story circle, what would she need to change coming into the story, and how would she grow by the end? What are you kind of imagining there?
Well, I think she's been the damsel in distress in the last movie.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, I can't really think of a film sequel. I'm sure they exist. Maybe you guys can think of one where, like, the character who is de facto just basically a plot device, is then kind of becomes the main character of the next movie and has to kind of prove themselves. Because, you know, if you had been taken captive and you know, had to be saved by Justin Long's character and Bruce Willis, you know, I would think that maybe your first instinct in that situation, if it happened again, would be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna follow their lead because they clearly have got this. But then what if it becomes painfully clear early on, they don't. You know, Justin
Ooh.
Long is dead. Bruce Willis he's not like, we might want to give him an injury early on. I'm not really sure. I think him being just like older,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
works for this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
True.
There's nothing from the previous movies that he should still be able to do anymore at this age. With the amount of injuries he's like, he literally shot himself in the movie that precedes this.
Yeah.
To end the movie.
Yeah.
Like the movie's over at that point. It's like, okay, yep, I could get shot, and that's it. I'm tapping out. Like, it's still very realistic.
Yeah.
So that could even be a thing. Maybe he lost some mobility in the last movie because he shot himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't even know if you have to maim him for it to be believable that, like, yeah, maybe he can't jump the gap between two buildings anymore.
He can't raise his arm over his head as much.
Right. Has a hard time putting his wife beater on.
Yeah, and I think that arc of just like of just her having to accept that she's the one that's gonna have to do this.
It has the same energy as the first one, where it's like he was ready to just call the cops and let them take over.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't want to have to be the hero. And
He was on vacation.
Right, and so yeah. Oh my God, I can't believe that I missed that in this fifth one. Oh man, I feel dumb. Yeah, that it gives her the same energy of like, I don't want to be the hero if I don't have to, but if there's no one else capable, I guess I'm going to do it.
Yeah, but it's also coming from a very different place too. Of like, in the first one, he's kind of looking around all these like, Ellis types and being like, oh yeah, they're such hot stuff, but when it really gets down to it, like, he's a old-fashioned New York cop and he can get the job done. Right. With her character, that wouldn't be an element of it at all. It wouldn't be like, oh, like, she's just it's not like she's an amazing cop. She just like has to try really, really hard and, has good instincts. And so it wouldn't even be a thing of like, Bruce Willis is going to show these yuppies how it's done. It would be her kind of figuring things out as it went along, even without that like prior training.
Yeah. Interesting.
Which I think would be fun.
No, I agree. Yeah, I'm liking this as like a it would feel prescient, but it also would be maybe a little more timeless than Live Free or Die Hard was. Because, like, even having not watched that one in a while, I know that there are aspects to the plot that are like, oh, that's a little dated now. Like, fire sales. That was, like,
yes.
The big jumping off point for that one. And that's, like, data recovery is so huge now. And even, like, data protection, preventing that kind of stuff. Keeping it a little more grounded and a little more in the real world, especially for her character development, would keep it a little timeless, I think. So for a villain.
Yeah, so for villain, I've thought a lot about this, actually, because what you really have to worry about is this villain being too much like the last one, who was also like a tech-based villain, right? And in the first one, how Hans Gruber puts up a front that it's he's doing this out of like a political motivation. He demands all the freeing of hostages that he read in an article like on the plane ride over and stuff. Yeah. I think it would be kind of fun to invert that and have this guy seem like very tech guy, like, oh, I don't want to kill anyone, I don't want to hurt anyone, this is all about making money, and I'm just gonna get what I want and get out of here. But really kind of that actually what you were saying earlier would be a good motivation, that kind of whole gross like white nationalist, like really there is a very political agenda to this.
Yeah.
And he is covering that up to make people more comfortable and think that they're going to be fine if they just keep going along with this.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's creepy. Yeah, it's got that online predator kind of vibe to it.
Oof.
Yeah, and it would be cool if he was never like, because Timothy Olyphant is a very like scary guy. Mm-hmm. It would be fun if this guy was a lot more okay, I hate to use this comparison because this might really set off some alarm bells. But you know what the Lex Luthor of Batman versus Superman, the good version of that,
Okay.
I guess.
Well, okay.
Like,
I actually, it's funny you bring that up because we Nando v Movies was on a couple weeks ago and we were discussing that Lex Luthor, and I brought up on that podcast the same point I'll make here briefly. That character works, just not in that movie.
Nope.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. I think
go ahead.
that character, like, I still think the performance is maybe turned up a little too much, but imagine a version of that character as like your annoying Pepe guy that's going up against John McClane. Like, John McClane would hate that character so
Yeah.
much.
No, I agree. Kevin Smith's character was even like a little bit like that
A little bit.
in Live Free or Die Hard. Now he was a good guy, obviously, but you saw how like little John McClane cared for that character. To make him the villain would just like turn up John McClane's ire for that.
If the
tenfold.
behind the scenes stories of Cop Out or anything to go by, I don't think Bruce was acting that much during those scenes.
Yeah, true. I actually kind of liked Cop Out. Is that weird?
I still haven't seen it. I just know all the drama
That is
behind
very
it.
weird.
I think it was Tracy Morgan really that saved that movie for me. He was really funny.
That's a phrase you don't hear often. Tracy Morgan saved that film.
Yeah.
But when you have Bruce Willis as the star, then
And again, that's one that I haven't watched in a long time, so maybe upon rewatch I won't like it as much. But I also unironically kind of enjoyed Tusk.
I never saw Tusk. I will say Cop Out is kind of like that time where Anne Hathaway and James Franco hosted the Oscars, and James Franco was just doing nothing, so Anne Hathaway had to try like 10 times as hard, and it came off as just a little sad.
Yeah.
That's how I felt about Cop
Yeah,
Out.
because like Sean William Scott and Tracy Morgan, their energy felt like very similar to. Do you watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
I do, yeah.
So Andy Samberg's character with I almost said Daniel Craig. Craig Robinson. I can't remember his name in the show, but he's like the criminal that like pops up a couple times and they're best friends even though they shouldn't be.
Yeah, I don't remember that character's name either, but I know what you're talking about.
They have like the similar energy in Cop Out. I think that's why I enjoyed it so much. It was just like, why does this cop and this criminal get along so well, and why is it making me laugh so much?
Yeah, Sean William Scott, who is now a regular on the Lethal Weapon TV show. So I guess it all comes back to 80s
for
action
however
movies.
much longer that show is going to last at this point.
Honestly, I was shocked that it got renewed at all. Like, it's good, but it was one of those like nobody's watching this.
Well, then you got all the drama there too, with the guy who was playing
Yeah,
Riggs,
the stars hated each
and
other.
now
yeah.
Damon Wayans might be leaving because, to basically quote his character, he might be getting too old for this shit. So, and Sean William Scott is playing not Riggs, which is weird. Like, it wasn't a recast;
Yeah,
it's just a new character apparently. So yeah, the titular character isn't even on the show anymore because
Interesting.
Riggs is the Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
That's where the name came from, but he's not even on the show anymore.
Right.
So it's like a very different alternate universe Lethal Weapon.
That's very odd.
weird. Yeah, everyone loved the first season, but like you said, no one's really watching it.
I watched the first episode and I enjoyed it enough that I was like, I could watch this if I had nothing else to do. But there's always more things to stream, so I
Yeah.
just never came back around to it.
Yeah, I get the feeling it would have been a big hit in like 2006.
Probably.
Yeah.
And is kind of a little, just people don't watch network TV that much anymore.
Right.
I feel like,
Yeah.
and if they are, it's like 60-year-olds watching CBS shows, which I guess that is a CBS show, but yeah.
Yeah, and it also suffers from the inevitable cop serialized comedy dramas aren't going to be able to last because that job in real life is just becoming more and more technical and more like IT related.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't make sense as like an action on screen thing. I can almost guarantee within the next decade the like cop TV show is either going to change dramatically to keep up or is just going to stop being a thing because people aren't going to want to watch people investigate Facebook profiles or go through Excel spreadsheets of data mined information or something, which is what the job is now. Like it's
I'm
not.
I'm
the
Chris
actual-
Hansen. We have the chat log right here. What are you doing?
Right.
Or it just gets more and more like detached from reality. Like there's that show Lucifer where one of the cops is the devil.
Yeah.
Because why not?
Which I kind of enjoy that show. That's kind of a fun show, but it's like clearly like, you know, stretching the breaking point of like how far can you take a police procedural before it's just like pure fantasy.
Yeah,
Literally.
exactly. It's weird that like Hellboy hasn't become a TV show. I think of all the like those kinds of like opportunities, Hellboy could easily be turned into like a serialized cop fantasy thing.
But an affordable TV series?
I guess not very affordable. Yeah, you're right.
I mean,
if they can do The Witcher as a TV show on Netflix, they could definitely do Hellboy.
Man, Netflix got money to burn at this point. The kinds of things that they keep
allegedly, but then I keep seeing articles about how much debt they're in. I'm like, where do you keep getting money to make these shows if you can't afford it?
Right.
What am I missing here?
Yeah,
it's like,
these,
billions in debt, but let's keep making shows.
Yeah, like these tech companies like Uber, I just feel like they can just keep burning money forever and it's never real, which is exactly the kind of thing that John McClane could say in this fake version of Die Hard 5.
That is a beautiful pivot. 10 out of 10 on that
Would
one.
recommend.
Yeah, okay, so let's cast our villain. I think that'll help kind of cement visually what we're looking at. What kind of actors right now are impressing you and you would want to see fill this like Kekistan Pepe? I mean, a villain that would unironically watch Alex Jones is essentially what we're pitching right now.
Yeah.
Who would you want to throw into that kind of role?
Oh my god.
Oh man, that's a good question. So I don't know. The movie has to be like have some weight to it because my first response, probably because you just said Brooklyn Nine-Nine,
Andy Samberg
was Andy
Yeah.
Samberg, but I don't know if he could pull off something with that much dramatic weight. I've never really seen him try. I do think there's a version of Andy Samberg that could hit those notes of like creepy and annoying and funny.
Bill Hader.
Really well.
Bill Hader. Ooh.
Bill Hader, that
because he's doing a new show now. It's like a dark comedy, but
Barry's
so
great.
good.
Yeah, like from what I've gathered, like I know like very little about it. It seems like it has like Dexter overtones, but like dark comedy style. Or
Dexter, yeah, I guess I could see that comparison. It's a little more Get Shorty, I think, than anything. It's got like it's funny when it's darkest, and then when it's not very dark, it's just like, hey, this is how things work in Hollywood.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Speaking of Get Shorty, the lead of that Get Shorty TV show, Chris
Yeah.
O'Dowd.
Oh yeah.
I feel like he could be good.
I feel like he's a little too physically imposing. He's a big
Maybe.
big dude. I'm trying to think of like somebody less physically imposing and someone that could like because Alan Rickman worked so well, not because he looked like he could beat up John McClane, but because he could hit those like every single note that he needed to hit as like, you know, the faces of a terrorist organization and the boss of a group of robbers pulling off a heist, and someone that could like become obsessed with killing one person that's running around a building causing issues and can pretend to be some guy from the Midwest for a minute. I guess I'm trying to think of someone that could potentially, or maybe a weird casting. You know what I mean? Like an odd choice for casting is kind of where I'm going in my head with it.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Cera, maybe.
That's.
Although you start getting the Scott Pilgrim references thanks to Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Yeah, that's
he's
true.
trying to get Ramona back.
You know, he's making a comeback right now. Macaulay Culkin.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I could see that. He's got a no offense, he seems like a nice guy. He's got a very weird energy.
Yeah.
Like
You're not wrong.
as a performer
Yeah.
these days.
That would actually be. I would see that.
And I could see him like it forced into the right situation, blend in with hipsters with like no problem. You know what I mean? Like if
Yeah,
he needed to fade into the
definitely.
background, pull his hair up into a man bun real quick, and like
Well, he used to do that.
Yeah.
So.
okay, that's my card on the table. Macaulay Culkin's my pitch.
Yeah, I'm actually okay with that.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
It's just bizarre enough that's got me intrigued.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
it's
like
just
mentioned, with the current energy on all the YouTube guest appearances that he makes on Angry Video Game Nerd and Red Letter Media.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, I guess it's just a matter of if he could translate that into like a nuanced performance at all, because I don't know if he can still, I don't know how good of an actor he is like now. I've seen him play himself, and he would be good at that. But yeah, I don't know like how much he still brings to a role.
call.
yeah.
You want like good son Macaulay Culkin.
You know who?
Oh,
Go ahead.
there's other Culkins,
Oh, yeah.
the one from Succession.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember them all. There's
yeah,
Kieran and another one.
is it
Rory? I
Rory
think
is
it's
the
Rory.
one that played. Rory is the one that was in that season of the Hulu show, the Stephen King Hulu
But
show.
yeah.
Kieran was also in Scott Pilgrim.
Kieran
God
was also
damn
it.
Yeah, Kieran. He would be amazing. I don't know if you guys have seen Succession, but that's like one of my favorite shows on right now, and he's great in that.
No, I haven't. I've seen clips of it, and it looks really, really good. You know who also might be kind of good in this? Dan Stevens from Legion, and he also played the Beast in the new Beauty and the Beast, but that was a
Okay.
mocap.
Oh yeah.
He played a villain in this movie called The Guest. Like highly recommend watching The Guest. It's got like it's the closest thing we've gotten to Halloween in a really long time, while still feeling like distinctly its own thing.
Interesting.
It feels like a John Carpenter movie like throughout,
Nice.
but he can do anything, honestly. Like the performances I've watched, especially on Legion, where he plays someone with multiple personalities, like the man can act his way out of anything.
Nice.
I could totally see him doing something like this too, because like I've seen him bulk up and be big. Like he's actually pretty big in The Guest because he's playing a war vet. But
Yeah.
then on Legion, he's not doesn't look like an action hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be really good. I've seen The Guest a long time ago. I really need to rewatch it. I think I saw it like when it first came out. That was what, like 2014
That
or
sounds
something.
right.
He was also really good in Apostle.
Oh yeah. Oh, Apostle was so good. I just want to talk about Apostle now. That's one of the few times that a Netflix original like really blew me away. But then again, it's was that not Gareth Edwards?
Gareth Evans.
Gareth Evans.
I still haven't seen it though.
Yes.
Like I love the Raid films, but I still haven't seen this.
It's weird, but it's excellent.
A lot of people hated it. Like, I don't know. It had really mixed reviews, but I thought it was pretty great.
I could get why people would hate it, especially because it's one of those movies that relies on you to like know, like I guess like folklore and like folk and for that to not have to be expositioned to you.
Yeah.
The guy who did Hereditary's got a movie coming out this year called Midsummer, and it's got like the same vibe as Apostle, except for it looks like it's going to be bright and cheery instead of dark and muddy.
And you said the director of Hereditary?
Hereditary, yeah.
Bright and cheerful.
Well, it's a horror movie, but it looks like it's a horror movie that's turning stuff on its head by making it look... I'll show you the trailer after this.
Okay.
It looks good. But no, yeah, he was great in Apostle, and now I'm working my way back in my memory how we got to Apostle. Got it. Dan
Stevens, right.
Okay.
Be good for
Which
this
I'm pretty
fella.
sure was the name of Chuck Norris's character in Silent Rage. I'm not kidding. I will have to double check now, but I'm pretty sure his character's name was Dan Stevens.
All right, so Kat, for a director, that's really gonna like set the kind of tone of your movie. Do you have any ideas, any pitches you'd want to throw out for who to direct this? Sheriff Dan Stevens, you were correct. Yeah, who would you want to direct this thing? Who do you want to behind the helm?
Well, it's weird because it's like there's a lot of people making like interesting independent movies that I would like to see try at a Die Hard movie, but I also it's like, do I want to see them make a Die Hard movie, or maybe they should continue just doing their own thing? But we were talking about Blue Ruin earlier. I mean, I think that guy could be great.
Okay.
I think Edgar Wright would be a ton of fun.
An Edgar Wright Die Hard movie.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
Because he loves action movies so much, right?
It's like, why do we keep going back to Scott Pilgrim?
I know.
Basically, we need to reboot Die Hard as Scott Pilgrim.
I mean,
because
I'm trying to imagine it. Okay.
He's trying to lean into his into more less comedic stuff. Like his next movie, I think, is a straight up horror movie.
Really?
Something like that.
And yes, and I believe so. I can look it up, but I think so. And you know, he made Shaun of the Dead, obviously, which was his like amazing parody of a horror movie.
True.
So why not? You know, he made Hot Fuzz. Why not make an actual like action movie? A Baby Driver is pretty close to that, but this is a Die Hard movie. That's like prime, kind of what he obsessed over as a younger guy, like material.
Okay, so I think the reason I'm really liking this, the more I think about it, is because of how established of a character John McClane is already.
Yeah.
If I had one thing to like knock Edgar Wright for, is that his main characters tend to be a little flat, not a ton of depth to them, and John McClane is a very three-dimensional character.
Supposed to be.
Well, it's supposed to be, yeah. Sans Good Day to Die Hard. Yeah, he's like, you know exactly all the facets of his personality based on even just the first movie, because he goes through. I mean, for an action movie, he goes through a lot of emotional beats in that.
True.
Like, you know, being in pain, being suspicious, being witty, being an asshole. Like anytime he's on that radio, like he's almost portraying a different character than himself to Hans Gruber.
True.
I guess that would be like, I would like to see. I almost said Gareth Edwards. Edgar Wright do an already established character where he wouldn't have to worry about writing in a bunch of extra stuff. Yeah, that's a very interesting pitch.
Yeah, I'm not sure he would ever want to do a franchise movie because he seems like a guy who likes to have a lot of control over his projects. But, you know,
if he just set a new tone for his series, that would be the kind of guy to, like, that would be the time to allow someone to, like, kind of run wild with it. Like, hey, you don't have to do a McTiernan film. You can just kind of do your own thing.
Yeah, right. And I know that he has the, like, action chops because Baby Driver, like, was great on that front. So, yeah, I really think he would be my number one. I think the who did Blue Ruin? It's
Saulnier.
Yeah. His version I think would be a lot darker, and that could be interesting too. But you know, I think it would still have a sense of humor. I guess those two would be kind of the most interesting choices. I think for me.
Jeremy would definitely probably be the way a studio would go, just because of the modern beat of like taking an established indie director and giving them a franchise to do stuff with. Marvel's been doing that for ages, and a lot of other production companies are jumping in on that. So I could like beat for beat imagine his version of a Die Hard movie, especially with this kind of like setting. I don't know. I'm still like hung up on the Edgar Wright thing because like that feels like a YouTube comments pitch, but the more I think about it, the better it sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of an obvious choice, but it would still result in a movie that would be really weird and unique.
For sure.
I think,
and still feel like Die Hard at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. I think honestly, if they're gonna start rebooting stuff like Lethal Weapon and Die Hard, I hope he gets a shot at one of them.
Yeah, for sure.
because you look at what was the? I'm completely spacing on the first like Catherine Bigelow
Zero Dark 30
action movie.
Oh no,
not Zero Dark 30. The surfing one. Man,
Point
how
Break.
am I not I've
Yeah.
like
Point Break.
Point Break. Thank you.
The pre
Point
Fast
Break,
and Furious.
right?
Fast and Furious 0.
Yeah. you look at like the Point Break remake, and that's the exact thing that you would want to avoid. Is that just kind of completely personality-less?
that was
terrible.
a shell of a movie.
Yeah, like every trailer. And
Yeah,
commercial I
there was
saw,
just
I'm like,
nothing
oh,
there.
Oh my god! No, and not only that, the whole thing felt like one of those like men's fragrance commercials is what came to mind. Like many scenes in it was like, was this a commercial director beforehand? Because like you're doing the Michael Bay thing and everything looks great, but there's like nothing underneath. I couldn't even tell you who starred in that movie.
Nope.
If you offered me money, I could not tell you who starred in that movie.
Nope.
Yeah, which is a problem because that's a movie that's just completely dependent on the charisma of its
Oh my
two
god!
leads.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Gary Busey. That's the person you want to hang your movie. Oh man, I miss Gary Busey. People need to start putting him back in movies.
Hello, pants.
You don't remember the great team up of Edgar Ramirez and Luke Bracey in 2015's Point Break?
Because he totally didn't just look that up.
How could I forget?
Yes.
How could I forget?
I say, staring at IMDb.
That's a big yikes, Captain.
Oy. Sweet Jesus.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, man, an Edgar Wright passing the torch movie, setting up Mary Elizabeth Winstead's Lucy Gennaro as the new hero against a social media experimenting white nationalist played by Macaulay Culkin or Dan Stevens.
Or one of the Culkins.
Well, yeah, a Culkin.
Pick a Culkin,
what if
any
we
Culkin.
What if we did like 3 Culkins? What if it was like a crew of brothers?
There we go. Get all the Culkins in
That
there.
Just make Macaulay the lead of the 3 Culkins.
That could be pretty great. I mean,
I would way rather watch that than the movie that we watched and have
Yes.
barely talked about because of our video.
yeah. When you brought it up, I was like, I tried to guess what our guests are going to pitch, and my guess was you were going to be like, yeah, I wanted to like drop Jai Courtney and I want to drop the nukes, but we could like maybe leave it set in Russia or something like that. But I knew like most of the movie was going to just leave because it's way easier to pitch a Die Hard movie from the ground up.
Get rid of Russia, Mel Gibson,
Yeah.
and Carrie Ann Moscow.
Carrie Ann Moss.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. I like this pitch a lot. This is there's some good stuff in here.
Indeed.
Honestly, I just want to see John McClane punch American Nazis.
That's
Yeah,
timely.
that'd be great.
It's very timely.
It works. It works
Yes.
for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna call that film rescued.
Oh yeah.
Damn.
Cool. It was great to be
Yeah.
here.
Oh my god. Yeah. Thank you so much for
Absolutely.
coming on and picking this one.
It made it worth watching this movie.
Yeah.
I can say I've seen all 5 now.
I don't know if I'd go that far. I still feel a little bad that I subjected everyone to the
You know,
movie.
it was only a matter of time. I had seen the other 4. I knew at one point I was just going to force myself anyway. Might as well do it for a purpose. And here we go.
Yeah. Hopefully this one ends up being the black sheep if they do make a 6th one and we can get people.
It's the Rocky
Oh.
5 of the Die Hard series.
I read up on this. They're doing a weird thing for the
Prequel,
6th
sequel.
one.
3 Culkins.
Where, yeah. And it's just going to be called McClane,
It's
apparently.
something
like
like
they're going
that.
for like the Logan kind
Yeah,
of
so
thing.
I don't know if they're just going to finally kill him off or what. But, like, from what I've read, it's like they're trying to, I guess, like what happens in present day, there's something that's related to, like, his past, like, early days as a rookie. And so it's sort of like flashbacks and present day. Something like that.
If they keep the story small and like personal, that has potential to be something good.
It could. Just one more, just good one,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
And then you're done.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it has to be better than this, but I also don't trust a Die Hard movie directed by almost anyone that I don't think could force Bruce Willis to actually
Yeah,
try.
yeah, you'd have to bring in like a big name that he would respect because we were bringing it up on the Death Wish episode about how any scene that he's in with
D'Onofrio.
Vincent D'Onofrio, he like really hams it up and goes for it. So there's obviously like actors and directors out there that he respects enough to like try if he's within vicinity. Like, would you just hire Vincent D'Onofrio to just stand on the sidelines and just watch? It's like, oh yeah, I'm here for Bruce Willis moral support, and then you get a movie where he tries in every scene.
I think like
the Willis, he's
if
the
they're
Willis
just gonna
whisperer.
do this sixth one,
Yeah.
why not let McTiernan?
Thank
do
you.
it? Like he's out of prison now, so
You read my mind.
Yeah.
Seth can vouch for me. This is exactly what I was saying.
He has said it twice. It is true. Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that. The man knows how to put a
full circle,
a great action scene together. I think people forget how amazing the opening of Predator is.
Oh yeah.
That them taking over the base is just like beautiful scene geography and one-liners and action beats and just like beefy guys being dudes.
You go full
and
Wisconsin.
Also he can't be that expensive at this point. You know, your rates have to take a hit if you're in prison for a while, I would think. But you know, definitely, why not just let him do it?
I'd be very okay with it. That's a reunion I'd like to see, a Bruce Willis McTiernan reunion, just to get him back out in Hollywood.
Get Joel Silver producing.
Yeah,
like the good old days.
Now, technically, this will be a Disney movie.
Oh, weird! I didn't even think about that.
Strange.
Die Hard is a Disney franchise now.
So this might not even happen because, like, who knows what they're reassessing?
There's a lot of reassessing going on. It's kind of crazy.
I'm sure there is, but you know, the conversations really have to be coming down to Disney's got to switch gears as a company, because you can't accrue Fox and all the like R-rated hits that they have underneath of them. And think about some of the production companies that Fox has taken over in the last few years. Like, Disney's going to have to either rebrand or keep the Fox name around and just...
And I think they will. I think they're going to treat it as like a production house.
Yeah.
Like Pixar, I guess. But just not have the Disney name on it.
Yeah, it helps to have that because they don't want... I'm sure they still want to make R-rated movies, but they don't want, you know, just like Touchstone back in the day, they want to have a different logo out in front of some of these movies than, you know,
I've
Disney.
lost count of how many times I've had to explain that to people. It's like, oh, Disney bought Fox. There's not going to be any more R-rated movies for those. Like, guys, Touchstone, Hollywood Pictures, Dimension Films. I can keep going because, like, there are all these companies. Granted, a lot of them are defunct, but they made those companies so Disney could produce R-rated films without having the Disney name on them.
Yeah.
It's simple as that. And if Fox is treated like one of those companies rather than a distribution house, that could work.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, potentially.
Yeah, just shove it in the very end credits. Like no one really notices at the very tail end of a Marvel movie that says, you know, copyright such and such year, Walt Disney Company or something like that. Because you don't have the Disney logo at the front. You have the Marvel Studios logo.
Exactly.
You know, so people just know.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting time. I'm definitely on the morally opposed to the Disney monopoly side.
Yeah,
but
same.
It's like I also like having good content. You know what I mean? It's a weird conundrum.
Yay! Marvel produced Fantastic Four.
I try to take I want that. Yeah, that's like one of the advantages.
We need that at this point.
We can have a good Fantastic Four movie.
Galactus is not a cloud.
I think what I try to do is, if I go to see it, because like I went to see Captain Marvel, but then I also went to see Us, which, you know, it was widely distributed and had good advertising, but it was like a smaller movie.
Yeah. And
so I take the time to go see at least 2 for every big Disney/Marvel movie that they put out.
Fair.
Just so the support is out there. You know, going to see Hereditary or Midsummer or basically anything A24 puts out at this point, I will go see just on principle, even if it's not great. I'm just, you know, I want to support those kinds of production houses. So I don't know if that's like the way to go. I'm not gonna say I'm the moral authority on it. If I had my
Well, it's definitely better than a world where everyone only goes and sees, the big Marvel or Jurassic Park movies or
Right.
whatever. No matter how good they are, I don't want to live in that world where that's the only thing people will turn out for because that's depressing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know.
That
how
gives
many-
no hope for us aspiring filmmakers.
It's right. It's like,
And I'm less aspiring nowadays. A whopping 33 years old.
yeah, it hurts. It hurts to see some of those like $300 million on Batman v Superman, and it's like, yay. Ugh, okay, all right, here we go again, I guess. All right, well, I think that's gonna wrap it up for the day. Do you want to tell the people where they can find your stuff one more time? Anybody that stuck around to the
Once
end?
more for the back row.
Yeah.
Sure. YouTube.com/Captain Midnight. You can find me. This week I'm probably going to be talking about Shazam.
Nice.
Did you like it? Did you
so
enjoy
yeah.
Shazam?
I enjoyed it a lot lot more than I thought
That
I was
seems to
going
be the
to. I'll say that.
consensus.
I said the same thing about Aquaman too.
And Venom.
Well, okay, Venom was fine. Aquaman.
Okay,
I loved.
Okay.
I'm in the position of where I went in with so little expectations to Venom that my video coming out of that was like, hey, this wasn't perfect, but I think the title was literally In Defense of Venom, the weirdest blockbuster of
Yeah.
2018. And that made people
Oh
so
my
mad. There was a guy that made an angry response video to me. It was, it was a good time being kind of happy about Venom. It made people very
Yeah.
angry for
Yeah,
some
it was
reason.
like weirdly unrealistic rage against that movie,
Yeah.
where people thought it was fine, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I have yet to meet anybody that loved it,
Yeah.
but I've also yet to meet anybody that was just like indifferent or hey, I just kind of disliked it. It's like
Exactly.
I fucking hate this movie, or yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, like if you go into it like it's gonna be a buddy comedy, I think it's a pretty enjoyable ride.
I tend to agree.
Yeah.
Um,
With Shazam though, it's so confusing because like I keep forgetting it's not like widely released yet. It had like that preview weekend
yeah.
from Fandango. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh yeah, it's not.
Yeah,
wide
people
yet.
are like, people have been saying like, "Oh, did you get in early because of your YouTube access?" And it's like, no, I just signed up for the Fandango thing like
Right.
everybody else.
Are there post-credit scenes? Should I stick around to the end?
Yes, there's 2 post-credit
Marvel.
scenes, and they're both worth it for different
Okay.
reasons.
So the pretty normal like world building one and then funny one. I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they nailed
like
it.
Marvel.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
exactly what they do now.
It's fine. It's whatever. It's definitely not Guardians of the Galaxy's 5 Easter egg during the credit thing.
Yeah, try to top that one. Holy hell.
I guarantee you that was James Gunn going like, yeah, nobody else will even attempt this, and I am fine with it.
Although allegedly Endgame will
I
have
will
3.
say I'll give
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Shazam is setting up a very goofy character, which I enjoy. So that's that kind of makes
Okay.
it worth
I
it.
will not look it up. I will wait till
But
I
yeah.
see it.
Yeah, I mean, like, man, okay. You remember how 2 years ago there was the whole like every publication was talking about superhero fatigue, and then like
Yes.
the next year everyone was saying like superhero fatigue isn't a real thing. We're just tired of bad movies. I've kind of
Yeah.
come full circle where I think I'm starting to get superhero fatigue, like, but for real, like, and it's not fatigue of like I don't want these movies anymore. It's fatigue of like there's like 6 a year, and I want to see them all, but I can't be excited for all of them the same level, and then I'm always wrong about which one I'm gonna like the most.
That's fair.
Because like last year, Infinity War, I was like really hyped for it, and it was pretty good. Like it was, I mean, exactly what we deserved, I think. But then like I didn't know how much I was gonna enjoy Ant-Man and the Wasp. Like I laughed so much in the theater and left like, and maybe that's an expectation.
I'm sorry. Maybe I'm the mainstream schlub who decided to see Infinity War 3 times in theaters and Ant-Man and the Wasp once.
Yeah,
Although I saw I saw Black Panther twice, so it's like Ant-Man and the Wasp once, Black Panther twice, Infinity War 3 times.
yeah.
For me, last year was just completely like Spider-Verse walked away with
Which
the
I
best
missed.
superhero movie
Yeah.
I'm like the
title.
only one who's not
Easy.
seen this damn movie yet.
Yes, you need.
Oh,
I gotta
really?
fix that.
Yeah, it's
so
great.
good. Yeah.
It's like I keep seeing your wallpaper on your phone
Oh
too.
yeah.
I was
I have
like,
a
damn it.
Spider-Verse wallpaper because I it's my favorite Spider-Man costume now. The
Nice.
Miles Morales costume from the end of that movie when he has the hoodie and sneakers
Yeah.
on. I love that costume. I've been trying to wrap this thing up for 5 minutes. This happens every time.
Every time.
Because I just like talking to people who like movies. So if you have a suggestion for a film you'd like to have us repitch, you can send us a full pitch to filmrescueshow@gmail.com. If we would love to bring you on to have you do your own pitch, but if you don't want to be on air, we will pitch it for you. Also, you can follow us on Twitter. That's at Film Rescue Show. I think next week is Iron Man 3. I wanna say off the top of my head. I could be wrong. Who knows? Please be sure to check out Captain Midnight's video. You said it was going to be on Shazam, right?
Yeah, that'll be out on
Okay, perfect.
Thursday.
So this, if you're listening to this the day of the release, that'll be tomorrow for you mooks out there. Thanks for listening. This is the Film Rescue Show. Good night.
Woo.